In this video, we're going to talk about something that's very rare, that hardly ever happens, and it's actually got no sentencing guidelines and has no maximum terms. But the breaches of the conduct themselves have a maximum term of 2 years in prison because the offences undermine the very system of criminal justice and as such are to be treated as very serious offences. We will also compare a case in America that has just had some breaking news dealing with a similar issue. So let's get started. In this case, 4 people were charged with perverting the course of justice. So if you're not familiar with the phrase perverting the course of justice, it is when a person prevents justice from being served on themselves or another person. So with that in mind, let me play a recap of the breaking news from November of 2022. Then I'll play a recent breaking news from just a few weeks ago, which gives me the same feeling of our case in England, and we'll talk about that straight after.
Begin with breaking news this noon. A judge has awarded Gabby Petito's parents $3 million in the wrongful death lawsuit they filed against the parents of Brian Laundrie. Laundrie was the fiancé of Petito, who investigators say killed the 22-year-old Long Island native during a cross-country trip last summer. Laundrie later took his own life. Petito's mother and father claimed the Laundries knew Petito was dead weeks before her body was found and did nothing to help in that search.
And the letter, as it has been revealed through court documents, is that this letter contained details about a shovel and helping bury a body. Now, this goes back to when this story was the story across the country, when people were gravitating towards this story, people who believed that the Laundries were well aware of everything that was going on and that they weren't talking, and it was for the reason of that they knew so much and they didn't want to say what they knew. Of course, that they were dealing with everything that was going on in real time. That people would ask, well, isn't that proof that they were aware of Gabby's murder all along and that they were, withholding information from investigators and so on and so forth?
Well, certainly that they were withholding information. Certainly that they had knowledge, but they are entitled to their Fifth Amendment right. And they never made false statements to law enforcement. If they would have, we'd be, I believe they would have been charged, but they never said anything.
The other question that I get all the time, and I'll bring up Sue's comment here on screen and talking about the Laundries and a conviction. But here's the thing. The Laundries, up until this point, make this very clear. The Laundries Chris and Roberta have never been faced with a charge. They've never been charged with anything in relation to the Brian Laundrie investigation, the Gabby Petito investigation. But people have also asked me, Jennifer, this civil lawsuit, the civil trial is looming, and people are interested, of course, in the evidence that gets presented at trial. And people have asked me all the time, if in a civil trial, if evidence is brought to light that is criminal in nature, can the FBI reopen the investigation and proceed with criminal charges against? Just in general. Not even just with this case, just in general.
If there were something new that came forward as a part of this proceeding, absolutely it could be used.
Okay, so now we know a bit of the current situation. His parents have not been charged, not even his mother. So let's get this straight. She writes a letter to her son, Brian Laundrie. Rewind if you need to. Hear what she said in the letter, because he murdered his girlfriend, Gabby Petito. And the solicitor for the Laundries are saying that because it's not dated, it cannot be proof that they knew what their son did. So it is not perverting the course of justice. And if you want to hear how Jennifer Coffindaffer responds to the ludicrousy of all of this, well, check out the clip. Now let's compare the mother who was caught in England, playing a major role in encouraging her son not to follow jury instructions from the court. So she was sentenced to perverting the course of justice. I will tell you how she was caught and what her sentence was or is, and it will shock you. But first, let's look at what basically jury instructions are. The first instruction to the jury is a very strict one, yet a simple one. Do not discuss the details of the trial with anyone, not even other jurors, about the case. And jurors can only talk to each other about the case when they deliberate, meaning that's when they discuss the evidence to decide a verdict, as they are the fact finders. So the judge gives instructions that most people will abide by. Well, some people just don't get it. Let me tell you a story. A guy is driving in his car with a lion, and a police sees this and pulls him over and says, if you don't want a fine, take that lion to the zoo. The next day, the same officer sees the guy. Again, he's driving with the lion. Didn't I tell you to take this lion to the zoo? The guy replies, I did, and now I'm taking him to the movies. Okay, is this a joke or is it real? You can watch my video on owning big cats in the UK. Okay, let's get back to the case. How did a UK mother end up in prison? Let's break it down in very basic terms. The mother's son was on a jury where the mother had connections to a guy the defendant asked to take the rap regarding a drug charge. The mother gave her son ideas for him to argue evidence with the jurors so that they would side with him and they could at least try for a hung jury. The problem was the son wasn't very good at following her instructions either. The jury went to the jury room to deliberate after the trial, and the son from the get-go said he would not find this defendant guilty, that he would acquit him, and was not prepared to budge on any of the evidence. So basically, the jurors found this behavior odd, and they asked him to explain himself, but he was adamant. And then he started to disclose really silly arguments, to the point that he even disclosed an address that wasn't presented in evidence. So the address was for the defendant, and they thought this is very strange. So they decided to tell the judge. As soon as the court investigated, the police discovered the plot, the whole plot, the conspiracy on his phone. And the mother was the one who actually encouraged him to do this. And the judge said, in consideration that the mother, through her connections, wanted to reward her son if he could get a hung jury, without her involvement, none of this could have happened. So at the beginning, I told you 4 people were charged. They were the defendant, the guy who was to take the rap, and the son, and the mother. They all received a prison sentence, but for the purpose of this story, I'm only going to go through the mother's sentence so that this video is not 2 hours long. As she was caught red-handed on the mobile recording, it would be futile to plead not guilty, but she delayed, and eventually she pleaded guilty, so she received a 25% reduction. But the judge felt her culpability was high, and therefore the sentence is conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. The judge took into account her age, as she was 56 years old, and she had a good character. She was a foster carer for a number of years and volunteered at a food bank, and she showed genuine remorse. But because there was a delay between her plea and sentencing, as a deterrent, the judge ordered her a sentence of imprisonment for 3 years and 3 months for the offense of soliciting jurors, another 12 months, which will run concurrent with the sentence of conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. So in total, she received 2 years and 3 months. So that reduction for mitigating factors paid off. Now, given what we heard Jennifer Coffindaffer say, that if new evidence were to come forward, and a legal charge is that they did pervert the course of justice, what do you think? Should they receive a sentence? In my view, They already have shown the world their appalling character. And morally, I cannot understand their motives, as by not encouraging their son to do the right thing and give himself up, as there was a nationwide search for him. But because of their silence, we will never know what their involvement was. Have they lost enough, as their son did commit suicide? And I've often wondered, maybe Brian said to them that he would give himself up, that he just wanted a few more days of freedom. What do you think? In our case, our UK mum wanted her son to benefit, and Brian's parents wanted him to benefit, maybe with a few more days of freedom. But again, in my view, by not telling law enforcement, as a manhunt ensued, even Dog, the famous bounty hunter, was out looking for him. So if their actions are not perverting the course of justice, I don't know what is. Please leave a comment if you like this kind of content. Give it a thumbs up. And as your comments help me to create more videos that you will find interesting, and maybe you will learn something you didn't know. I've left extra links below so that you can find out more about how Brian Laundrie was found. And I've also, the other link is, it will tell you how much the search for him costs and the potential risks to the Laundrie parents for obstruction of justice. I hope you found today's video interesting, and information is power. Why not subscribe and watch more of our videos? If you need legal help, contact legal-minded friends.